Hi, it's Full Abilities. My name is Hannah. I'm here with Anya. Um, and today we have a special guest, Heather. She agreed to talk with us and tell us a little bit, share her experience, tell us a little bit about her illness, her disability. So welcome, Heather.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and honored that you guys asked me to come on your podcast.
Sure. So first of all, let's start. Why won't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your disability, your illness?
Sure. So, my name's Heather. I'm 28. I'm from Sydney, Australia. And I have multiple chronic illnesses slash disabilities. So I have complex regional pain syndrome, fibromyalgia, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is often shortened to POTS. I have osteoarthritis and ADHD. So quite a plethora of different illnesses. Yeah, so I'm a singer and I love music. It's like my biggest passion, and I have fun on TikTok with musicians and being part of fandoms and things like that. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, it's clear that music is very important too, and we would like to congratulate you on your success on TikTok. And we have a question: has music have any impact on how you cope with difficult aspects of your disability?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think music's a major part, especially like for my own experience. Like I've sung all my life and written songs all my life. So when I got diagnosed with my illnesses, it was a way that I was able to express what I was going through and how I was feeling through music, because that's the best way that I know how. And it's also an amazing tool that I use as a distraction. Say if I'm having a really bad pain day or something, I listen to music, but I also, take part in making silly videos about, Harry Styles or Niall Horan. Like it distracts me from the pain and makes me feel a little bit better when things aren't feeling so great in my body, if that makes sense.
Um, does it bother you when people ask about your illness, disability?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's all about the person's intention and like why they're asking you. If someone's asking because they feel like they have the right to know and they just want to know the details about your life and things like that, then it's kind of invasive. And I think as people with disabilities or chronic illnesses, a lot of the time our medical history can be quite traumatic. So I don't necessarily feel comfortable just, if someone's on the street and they see me with my walking stick and they're like, oh, what happened? It's like, it's none of your business. But I think making it so that it's my choice to tell them rather than like taking the power back of the situation. But yeah, it's all about intention, and if people are being nasty about it.
Okay, so do you know any good disability representation in the entertainment industry?
Sure. So the best example of representation I've seen is actually recently. I don't know if you've seen the show called Heartbreak High. It's a new show on Netflix. It's actually based on an Australian show from the 90s that's been revamped. And there's a character in it called Quinny, and she actually has autism and ADHD. And the character is actually played by a neurodivergent actor called Chloe Hayden. And it's really amazing to see a disabled character played by just someone with a disability, because they understand exactly what it's like to have these experiences, to have this disability, rather than an able-bodied person acting as though they know what we go through. But I think it's really time to see more representation. I think there's hardly any, and if there is, it's often played by an able-bodied character, and that's not great, I don't think. I think we have such amazing stories to tell, and there's so many talented disabled writers, actors, singers, musicians that should be put to the forefront, because we have amazing stories to tell.
Okay, so why do you think that this topic is so underrepresented?
I think because people don't want to see what could happen to them. And I think it's really rooted in ableism as well. Like, yeah, I think people don't want to watch something and see what we go through and think, oh, that could happen to me. I think it's too close to home. But I genuinely, I don't know why these stories aren't being shared more, because they're so amazing and everything else has been done. All the same stories have been done. So why not share our stories? And within the disability, that's just like there's so many unique stories within disability as well. So I wish we were given more opportunities, and yeah, I think it's just rooted in ableism, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think representation is really important, especially like for children that are disabled and they don't see it anywhere. Especially, I don't know any. So that's a shame. So
Yeah.
would you say that the government in your country helps disabled people enough?
So in Australia, we do have like resources and services that are available to disabled people, but they make them very inaccessible. They make you jump through a million hoops. They make you fill out a million forms, and to often get these processes rolling, you have to see specialists and pay them money to get reports, and then wait months or years for someone to see if you're disabled enough to qualify for these programs. So in a way, like on paper, yes, but in actuality, the system is so broken in getting us these actual services. And even, I don't want to, like, even with COVID, the way our government has just all of a sudden taken away, like, if you get COVID, you don't have to isolate anymore. And I think that really makes a lot of disabled people even more housebound than we have been for the last 3 years of this pandemic. So there's a lot of great things that our government do, but there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, as I'm sure in most countries that's the case as well.
Yeah, here in Poland, for example, with carers, or we don't get enough financial support for carers and for medical expenses, or there are many buildings that are accessible to disabled, which is really awful. So what would you say are the biggest problems that disabled people in your country face, like on a daily basis or overall?
I think, I mean, I can't speak for all disabled people, but I can speak from my personal experience. I think just like simple things, like, sorry if you can hear my cat in the background, she's just running around. Simple things like, say if I wanted to go to a concert, buildings are not accessible. Like I wanted to see Louis Tomlinson. It was all general admission. There was no, you couldn't pick your seating. So many things like that. So many buildings don't have elevators. You have to walk upstairs. You know, public transportation. There's so many things that I guess able-bodied people, because they don't have to think about it, they don't think about other people. And there's so many easy fixes, like put in a ramp, put in an elevator. Like, yes, it costs money, but it means that we can enjoy the things that everyone else can.
That's a containment. If yes, what can we do?
I guess the biggest thing is like just continuing to talk about it, trying to raise awareness, trying to, I think, at the moment on social media, there's like people are talking a lot more about disability advocacy and shutting down ableism and things like that, and just raising awareness. So I think that's a major thing, and putting pressure on your government, like even your local officials, to realize that we need these accessibility things. And voting is a massive thing as well, like voting for the right people that are going to actually represent the disabled community, rather than, you know, people who don't care at all and just want to benefit a certain privileged type of person. But in terms of what we can do, I just think it's really hard to say what we can do, but yeah, social media, I think, is a massive thing.
So Heather, I would like to ask you, what is something that you would like to say to other people living?
I guess your experiences and stories are valid, and it's not your fault that we're living in an ableist world when all we're trying to do is exist and live our lives. Curiosity from people doesn't mean that we have to share every detail about our medical history. It's up to us to share that. And I think it's really important that people respect that boundary. And I think as well, remembering that you're yourself as well. You're not just the person that has a disability. You're more than that. You have amazing like personality traits and skills and things that you love. And yeah, you're more than your illness. And yeah.
Okay. Our friend and our former leader also has CRPS. And so how would you rate the overall understanding of this illness, by medical professionals, but also by the general public, just people that you meet?
Yeah, so I would say, I'll start with medical first. I would say it's pretty low, especially amongst general doctors, where you just go like a GP, and even specialists as well. It's not very commonly spoken about that CRPS is actually a neurological disorder. It's not just like it causes chronic pain, but it's a neurological disorder, and that's not widely known and widely spoken about. I go to doctors and they call it chronic regional pain syndrome when it's complex regional pain syndrome. And a lot of the time, if I would go into the emergency room, if I was in a lot of pain, the first thing that they think is you're just after, pain relief, and it's not the case. And yeah, I think it's just very misunderstood. A lot of doctors think it's a psychological thing, and make you go through, make you go to see a psychologist for chronic pain, which yes, can help, but it's not all in our head. And I wish doctors would do more research about it, because yeah, it is a neurological disorder. The pain is real. And I guess it's same with people that aren't doctors as well. I don't think I've ever met anyone that knew what CRPS was, like just that wasn't also chronically ill or had a disability. It's very rare. A lot of people know what fibromyalgia is, but there's definitely a lack of understanding, as I'm sure with your illnesses, you experience that as well with EDS. Yeah, I just think if people don't go through it themselves, they don't have any understanding of what it's actually like. But I try to raise as much awareness as I can. Like, obviously my TikTok is mostly about One Direction, but every now and then I put in a video about my experiences about being a disabled woman, or my chronic pain or anything like that, to try and raise awareness, because yeah, people just have no idea. And it's disappointing, especially it's especially disappointing when you see a chronic pain specialist and they have no idea about it. But it's very common, and it's a lot of people that have chronic pain experience a lack of understanding from doctors.
That must be horrible to to feel so misunderstood, not only by the community but also by the doctors. I think it's amazing that you know that you want to spread the information using social media. I think that's the only way that we can help this disinformation. So yeah, I would like to ask you, do you have anything to add? Is there something that you'd like to say that we haven't covered yet?
I guess I just want to say that, like, everyone's experience with being disabled or chronically ill is unique, and it's great that we're able to even have this discussion about my experiences, and you guys' experiences are probably totally different to what I've experienced, and that's, I think, what I want people that aren't disabled to realize, is that we're all different, and we all experience different things. Yeah, and for me, when I got all these diagnoses, finding the little things and my joy in music or One Direction or anything like that really helped me get out of a place of mourning my old life. And I think, yeah, once you find something that brings you joy, even if it is so silly, can really help. And I hope that if anyone listening is, going through that, they can find their joy as well. And both of you, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. We are all different, but I think it's also that there are some things that we as people who experience disability or chronic illnesses have in common, that
Yeah.
we just can't relate to able people,
Mm.
and I think it's amazing if we find our community and if we find someone that we can relate to. And I found many people like that, and I'm very grateful for that. Thanks to Instagram, thanks to social media. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great that we can, like, obviously I said that we're all different, but we can still come together to, like, because we have that shared experience of being chronically ill and disabled. But I agree, like, social media, it's been the most amazing thing for me as well, like finding other people that are chronically ill, because you don't meet other people in your everyday life necessarily that are also chronically ill or disabled. So it's amazing to connect with all types of people on social media and have that shared lived experience.
Yeah, okay, so that's it for today. Heather, we are very grateful for your time and just that you are here with us. If anyone who's watching, who's listening, would like to follow Heather, all the links are going to be in the description box below. And yes, Heather, again, thank you so much.